Hi everybody, my name is Christy Ziegler and I am your instructor for EDU 5120 Action Research in the Classroom. I'm really excited to get to know you through the course of our term together, and we'll begin each one of our sessions with a screencast that'll kind of set the stage for what we'll be working on each week. So this week we're going to talk a little bit about the course in general, what you can expect. We'll walk through the syllabus. I'll give you some background information so you have an opportunity to get to know me, and then we'll lay out week one of our module for the course. So Action Research is one of those courses that I have to tell you every semester. As we get into the first few weeks of the class, I think most people have some hesitations about, or maybe even some anxiety about the course, because it seems really daunting to think about completing a 7-week course and doing your master's level research project. I promise you that every student that I work with, once we get over the halfway point of the course and into week 4 and 5, you'll be able to take a breath and know that this is doable. I got this and I'm going to make it through. So I will tell you, Action Research is one of my favorite courses to teach. I've taught it for more years than I care to share with you, because I know you all think I still look really, really young, and I could not, there's no way I could be teaching it for as long if I told you the true number of years. So I'll keep that to myself. But I hope you know that I will do my best to make the class fun and also meaningful. It is one of the most meaningful classes that I think you will take, and that's part of why I love to teach it, because Action Research is really about your own practice. It's about digging deep and looking at the things that you do as a professional educator in the classroom to really make incremental improvements for your learners. Maybe that's looking at the way you implement instruction, the way you implement assessments, the way you implement behavior plans, and collecting some data over the course of the next few weeks once we get a solid plan in place for you to follow. And then really being introspective about the choices and the decisions that you make as a practitioner, and truly digging in to see what impact you have within the 4 walls of your classroom or within the virtual walls of your classroom, as the case may be this year. I want to talk a little bit about this year, because it seems to be a different start to the year for many of us. And so some of the changes that our current situation and pandemic are bringing to our respective districts and classrooms could be challenging, and I've done some processing on what that might look like in terms of our course. But just know, you will have students that you're working with. Hopefully you all are currently in a classroom situation. If you're not, this is my plug to please let me know that right out of the gate so that we can figure out an alternative plan that will work for you. But regardless of where we're teaching, we're still teaching. And that gives us the opportunity to conduct action research to see how do we improve our teaching so that students ultimately are improving their abilities to learn with us. So that gives you a little bit of insight into action research. We are going to be doing research on our own actions. I alluded to the fact that I've taught this course for a number of years, nearly 2 decades, and I do love it because it keeps me up on practice, because every semester I have anywhere from 10 to 24 action research projects that are under development, all the way through full implementation, and data that's collected and research that's done not only at the classroom level, but part of what we'll explore through action research is looking at what the existing research base says about what it is you're wanting to do. So if you will, I'm constantly reading research because of this course, and so it turns into my own form of professional development that helps me stay up and current on practice and what is evidence-based to support our classrooms and our teachers in our own districts. So I've taught this course for nearly 2 decades. During the day, my professional job, aside from Baker, is I am a district administrator. I serve as a chief of student services for a large metropolitan district in the Kansas City area. I've been with that district for 7 years. But over the course of my career, I've served as a title teacher. I've taught middle school and high school science, general science, and biology. And then I've also served as a district administrator in roles from serving as a technology director to a curriculum director. I've overseen special education. But most of my career has been in curriculum instruction and assessment. I have a love of learning, and so just in what I've shared with you a little bit about this course and my continued involvement in this course, I think that is part of why I thrive in it, is it does give me the opportunity to keep learning along with all of you. So I do have a family, and my husband and I have 2 children. I have a 4th grader and a sophomore in high school. So I share that with you. One of the things that I want you to know as we get into this semester is I also have a full-time job in addition to the coursework that I support you in. And I understand that life and sometimes family can throw us some curves. And I ask that you just stay in contact with me so that I know if you need any support or maybe additional support. If you need some additional time to do an assignment well, I just want you to know that I am approachable. And I would rather you reach out and say, hey, I need help, than maybe not turn something in, because I will contact you. And I'd rather you be the one being proactive on that front towards me, so that I'm not left wondering, what's going on? How do I help support this person? So just be proactive and be open with communication. In terms of reaching me, on the syllabus, and I'm going to pop over into a little bit of a different screen. So in Moodle, let's just get to know our Moodle site. I'm going to go ahead and pop in to Fall 20. And as that loads, you will see a couple of things. I have provided you with my cell phone number. My cell phone number is there for you to use. Please use it. Text me if you have a question. I may not be able to respond in the middle of the day right away, but I will get back to you as soon as I possibly can. You have my Baker email. I check that several times a day, so I will respond to you as quickly as I possibly can. And then another thing that I do, and you'll have the link that's posted down here under office hours. I do basically kind of a rolling office hours every week. I typically set up office hours on Tuesday evenings. I will tell you, I try my best to always do it from 8 to 8:30. Sometimes I may have like a late night board meeting or something that runs a little bit late. And in those cases, I'll always post a message. I ask you to email me if you're planning on popping in, so I do know if people are planning on coming. Otherwise, it's just me kind of hanging out waiting. But do just drop me an email if you need some help, and we can jump into a Zoom meeting on a Tuesday night, and I'll have the links posted under office hours right here. You've got access to the course syllabus. You also have access to the overall project rubric for action research. It's also included in the syllabus. And then a rubric for our final presentation. So if you're one that likes to know what direction we're going and you want to see what the big project looks like at the very end of the course, and you want to start with the end in mind, then I encourage you to take a look at some of those resources. So in the syllabus, I've laid out our meeting dates. We're going to go straight through with no breaks. Course resource, we've got the Mertler 6th edition. I do believe it's available both in electronic and in print. There are not drastic differences, so if you may have been resourceful and gotten a past text from another student, it's okay if you're still using maybe the 5th edition. Subtle differences and maybe some differences in page numbers that I may reference through the weeks as we go. You've got the program standards from National Board Professional Teaching Standards that this course will align to, and we're going to talk about those and the objectives in just a minute. Attendance, I ask you to be engaged every week. I do judge attendance by some of the assignments that I have you complete each week. And so those will be minimal points, but basically you do need to do them and turn them in, or else I can't mark you as present in the class. And as you all probably know, Baker does have an attendance policy that you need to be attending, or else you'll be dropped. Instructional strategies, we're going to be shaking some things up this semester. I do a lot of discussion format, but there'll be some weeks where you may be into Writer's Workshop, where you'll be partnered up and doing some peer writing and editing together. But one of the things that's constant is you will get a lot of written feedback from me. As we get into drafting each section of the project, you'll have drafts due just about every week after we get past week 2. So week 3 through 7, you'll be turning in writing samples to me as you continue to make progress on your overall action research project. So think of this course as one big writer's workshop, if you will, because I will be giving you weekly comments and feedback. You can peruse our dates and kind of the session overview that we have laid out in the syllabus. And as I indicated just a minute ago, if you scroll to the end of the syllabus, this is what I really wanted you to see, is you will see the Action Research overall rubric. There will be different elements. We'll kind of slice this apart, and so after we get into maybe week 3, week 2, week 3, you'll start drafting sections of the project. And as we draft each section, so we start on the introduction and identifying what our problem statement's going to be, this rubric is available to you so you know what your target is. And I've got some resources that I'll share on those assignments too, so you know where we're headed. But I encourage you to remember the rubric is in the syllabus. Moodle, each week, I will have the assignments posted. So even though I have a flow that we just looked at up here, I'm going to scroll, sorry if I'm making you dizzy. This is just my general flow. Any adjustments that I make to this, it will always be in Moodle. So Moodle every week, consult, and that's where you'll know what's due. All right, we're going to pop back over into the slides. This week, I really want to focus on starting to develop our relationship. I've told you a little bit about me. I've also updated my profile within Moodle. So I'm going to ask you to do the same. I've already gone in and looked, and very few people actually have the profile ready to go in Moodle. So if you will take a look in the upper corner of your Moodle screen, where it will have your login info, and if you click on the drop down and click on profile, it'll go in and it will show you your profile. So I'm going to ask that you go in, and you'll have the little editing, so you can go in and you can edit your profile. Tell me about you. Where are you at in your teaching career? What are you teaching? Where are you teaching? Tell me a little bit about your interests, where you want to be in your future. Tell me about your family, anything you want to share. Just give me a chance to get to know you a little bit. The key things that I do really want you to share is absolutely your teaching, what you're teaching, if you're teaching 4th grade, if you're teaching high school English, because that'll be helpful as I start to think about those Writers Workshop small groups, and so that you have some collegial interactions as well that I can structure in some of the weeks ahead as we get into kind of breaking out into more specific work about your projects. So your first assignment this week is to go and update your Moodle profile. I'm going to pop on back, take a look at that. So after you get through the introduction and general information, you're going to see the session 1 information and activity 1, introduce yourself. I've got the details there about updating your Moodle profile. Let me know if you have any questions about that. Okay? We've reviewed the syllabus briefly, review some of the weekly instructional topics and assignments, take a little bit to see where we're going. Overall, the course objective, and as I talked about action research as we began this session, I talked a little bit about this is the action. We're going to research you and how you are implementing strategies, changes, and the impacts of those changes in your own classroom. So you're going to demonstrate by the end of the course an understanding of action research theory and practice as it relates to improvement of classroom instruction. So really action research is a strategy for school improvement. As you'll learn in some of the weeks, it is something that at times you can see a school-wide approach. There have been buildings that have embraced this, and every teacher is doing action research and then sharing that back through their PLCs. You're going to develop knowledge of best practice in instruction, because before you can implement a change, you're going to have to research and find out, is that change okay? Is there research that supports that change? Otherwise, you're just kind of making changes in the dark without even really knowing, is this okay? Is this effective? Is there something bad about this? You want to make sure that you're making incremental, meaningful changes that are supported in the research and know why they're supported. You're also going to have the opportunity to examine critically and think systematically about effective classroom instruction and the overall environment. We're going to be problem solving, so you may think about this as you start to kind of scratch your head and think about, what is my focus going to be for this project that I have to research? One of the things I'll encourage you to think about is what really gets under your skin. Or as you get to know your students, again, an atypical year, some of us may be back in school, some of us have not yet started for this year. Maybe you know you have a student that's coming up into your grade level that's been a real challenge, and you need to figure out how to maybe put the best behavioral support plan in place for that learner. That's solving a problem. That's helping that learner be supported in the environment, but you're also looking at how do I solve this problem and ultimately impact the best possible learning environment for this child. So action research may be whole class, it also may be small group, and it could be a single child that you're looking at making improvements for. Increased skill in written communication. If you don't love to write, that's the one thing I can't help you with, because there's a lot of writing in this course, but please know that I will be here and I will help you with editing and support you in that process. But there is a lot of written communication in this course because you are developing your research paper. Our course process. Each week we're going to be divided out across the 7 weeks. So we're going to develop our action research questions. Then we're going to gather information, and that's figuring out the research base to support the questions that you may want to answer. Is there a research base behind it? And if not, you might want to pick a project topic that is going to have some research that you will have access to. You're going to design a plan to assess your current cost and practice as it relates to the question. So you're going to have a research methodology, or how you're going to go and collect data. Then you're going to go and actually implement the project and gather and analyze the data. And then you're going to write up basically your written summary of what you learned and what you found, what the data tells you, and you're going to distribute that to others. Part of professional practice, and think about that PLC approach that so many of us are engaged in, is about sharing your knowledge with others and communicating what you learned so that others can take that and other children can then benefit from the work that we're doing. You're going to be doing a lot of cooperative work, and I encourage you to not just rely on your colleagues that are within this cohort with you, but also rely on those that are working with you in your own schools and your own teams. Don't keep this to yourself, because part of being a great practitioner is having that collegial network and talking through problems. Hey, what do you think about this? Hey, you know my classroom. Hey, you know my teaching. What kind of feedback would you say if I told you this is what I was going to work on for my class or for my action research project? And rely on your professional network. It's okay to have conversations outside of this class about the work we're doing. And others, the more we have those professional dialogue, the professional conversations, the more support we have for each other and the course that we chart for the project. Course expectations. I live my life by Yoga Whippy. You only get out what you put in. So if you haven't heard that, Yoga Whippy. And I use that for this course. Be online, be ready to learn several times each week. Do not wait until 9 p.m. on Sunday evenings. I will tell you a secret. I can see all the times that you are logging in. So if you haven't logged in all week and I see you getting into the course for the very first time at 9 o'clock on a Sunday, I'm going to wonder how effective your action research really is going to be. You need to be involved and you need to be accessing the information throughout the week as best you can. Please let me know, as I indicated before, if you have a potential emergency, maybe you're not going to be able to log in or something comes up. Just reach out, send me a text, give me a phone call, send me an email. Questions encouraged and supported. Please do not stay quiet if you have questions. I am here to support you and I want to hear from you. Your student work and how we assess things. You're going to be developing working knowledge of action research theory and process through your online attendance and participation. As I said, there'll be 1 week that we're going to do an article jigsaw and we'll share out the information across 4 different articles. And there'll be 1 week that we do a writer's workshop. Every week I will start with a short screencast. I try to keep it to 15 to 20 minutes and short, so it's just the right size to get you started for the week. But it'll vary. I'll vary different instructional strategies as we go through the course. You will go next week, so you could start looking for this maybe through the Baker Online Library. Start looking for research publications, so a peer-reviewed research publication, not an article that's in a magazine, not something that's in Edutopia, but get into the research databases through the Collins Library and find 2 publications in a professional research peer-reviewed journal. We're linked to a topic that you may want to study, and all you need to do for next week, it'll be due in week 2, is you write 2 different abstracts. Abstracts are short, very concise, about 250 words max. There's a rubric on the syllabus. Look at the abstract for the final project. That'll give you the guide. But that'll be your first writing assignment that'll be due. And again, it's due next week. And each one of those abstracts is worth 10 points. You're going to submit that into a discussion forum where you're going to name it by the research topic. And that way we're going to start to build a database of research that we might be able to access collectively as others might have similar research interests as you. So there's always going to be some collaborative piece as much as possible in this course as we submit our assignments. The big project is the 90 points total for developing your final action research project and presenting it. You'll do a digital presentation at the end of the course, and that's part of your distribution plan of sharing that research. The action research project, I've already gone and shown you the rubric, but you can cruise through there and see each of the components. And I kind of went through our course process, but that aligns to the pieces of the action research project that you'll be completing. At the very end of the project, you'll write the abstract, because the abstract of the project is going to give the short, concise summary of what was done, how it was done, and what was learned, what was found through the data. You'll write the introduction and statement of the problem, where you're going to talk about the environment, the learners. They're going to talk about you as a practitioner, what your experiences have been. You're going to talk about what's led you to identify the problem that you're really wanting to work on, and you're going to identify what the ultimate research question is for your project. Then you're going to move into the research-based support for change. Research-based support for change is where you're going to really look at what does the existing research say about the change you want to try and make. So maybe you want to implement a system where you're reinforcing positive behaviors, positive behavioral support. You're going to go and get into the research and the databases through the Collins Library and see what is the depth of research already published, produced, that speaks to or correlates to what change you want to make. And you're going to write about it. So you might have, 3 succinct points for why this is something that's supported in research. Positive behavioral supports allows learner dignity in the learning process. An example might be that positive behavioral supports allows for the teacher to develop and maintain a strong relationship with the learner where we're teaching through behaviors. Positive behavioral supports allows the student to have control of the situation and also quickly recover in the event of a poor choice. I'm just off the top of my head thinking about how I would write that research-based support for change. And I would be citing that throughout. I will provide you examples of that as we get into that section of the project. We'll develop then a data collection method where we'll look at how we're going to collect data and what tools we will use to collect our data. We'll do the data analysis. So we'll look at how we're going to analyze the data and what type of statistics. Usually it's basic descriptive statistics that we'll use. And then we'll write out the research summary of what we learned and what the data show and a dissemination plan for how we'll share it with others. As I shared before, please consult the project rubric that is posted in Moodle and also at the end of your syllabus so that you have an idea of what each section of the project is going to look like and what the expectations of the work might look like for each. And then before we conclude this screencast, I just want to give you a couple of pieces of food for thought. I've talked a lot about the benefits of action research as I introduced the course, and really it is a tool for professional development. But what is nice about action research is you're studying your problem. This whole class is about you. I don't get to say that when I teach very many classes, but action research is about you. So we're going to focus on you. And you better love your project because you're going to pick it. I'm not picking it for you. You're going to pick it and you're going to really work at something that's meaningful for you and your learners. It is a form of professional growth because you are going to learn about your own practice and how to improve the situation for others. You're going to be focusing on improving the quality of your instruction, and ultimately the goal is to improve student learning. And it's designed to connect research with classroom instruction. It's also known, so as you're looking into the research and you start to research for action research, you might find some linked topics around reflective practice, case studies, collaborative action research, responsive action research. There's just some different terms that are synonymous. What it is not. This is not scientifically based research. We're not going to have a control group. We're not going to study the problems of others. When I went through my dissertation research, it was kind of the old school thinking that in traditional research, you have to pick a topic that others have studied and you add to that research base. You don't pioneer something on your own. That's not what this is. So that's more the scientific basis. And scientifically based research is not generally designed to benefit the subjects, but it's really focused on contributing to the research community as a whole. So here's a nice graphic organizer so you can look at the differences and similarities between. So both traditional research and action research They share identification of research methods, they are inquiry-based processes, they are problem-solving oriented, but action research really is a more personal process. So as you start to think about this week and start to think about what topics you might want to study, I will give you some indications of what some others have set out to study through this course. Equity, improving instruction for students of color, English language learners, those have been some key topics before. Student behavior is typically a really popular topic to look at. Different teaching strategies and learning styles have been topics in the past. Real life connections, implementing maybe real world project-based learning into the classroom, that's been another popular topic. Looking at how to strengthen instruction through formative assessments and student-owned assessments. I've had some students that have worked in that realm. And as I said before, your project could just be focused on single student or a small group of students. Maybe it's a Tier 3 intervention group if you're in MTSS or RTI, or it could be entire classroom. Secondary teachers, I would tell you, because I know how many sections you may teach across the day, that may be really overwhelming in data as you start to structure a project. So you may only want to look at a couple of classes to really work at data. So those are the things that we'll think about as we get further down the road of kind of honing in on what your project will focus on. Developing research questions. You do not have to have your questions finalized this week. We're going to take a couple of weeks to really kind of tease out what you want to work on. You should have a better understanding by the end of next week's class. But this week, one of the assignments I'm going to have you do is called the Right Question activity, and it really is just an inquiry brainstorming process, and I've had fun doing it in classes, on butcher paper with students, something you can use with your own students. But I just want you to take a breath, or a few breaths. Maybe we need a few breaths at this time of the year right now where we're at. But I want you to just kind of clear your mind, and then I want you to picture your classroom, and I want you to think about what are the things that you maybe have thought in the past, when I have some time, or I want to focus on really, making an incremental change on something specific. So as you get into this activity, the only rule that I have is that you write down questions, not statements. Everything you write down has to be in the form of a question. So I want you to keep your mind focused on questions, not statements. Brainstorm any question that comes to mind, and it says members of your team, so ignore that. That's more for another group. But set a timer for 5 minutes and begin phase 1. Get a blank piece of paper, set a timer, start the timer, and just write any and all questions you can think of with respect to your classroom, student learning, behaviors, instruction, your assessment, anything that comes to mind. And then stop that timer. And you might do it again. Look at what you've written. And then you might even pick one of those questions and then set the timer again, and then start writing another brainstorming session off of that specific question. It'll allow you to kind of get some clarity and maybe get a whole lot of possible topics down that you can review and think about, what do I really want to tackle for this course? So once you have that done, what I'm going to ask you to do is take a look and what issues did you identify, and are the issues solvable? Are the questions potentially measurable? How could you measure them? Because those are kind of the key topics that we're going to look at when we hone in on identifying the question that you want to work on for the course. Once you have completed that brainstorming activity, and there is no shame in what you write down, everything's safe, but I want you to post in the online forum that's posted in Moodle for the right questions. And then I want you to take some time to review what others have posted, provide some suggestions, or ask a follow-up question to what they've posted. Maybe it's, have you thought about, I like that you've posted about PBIS, have you thought about trying blah, blah, blah. And let's get some collaborative conversation going. But take a look at what issues you identified, what potential solutions did you identify, and how might you know if they have an effect. But I do want you to post the raw list. Post the raw list, and then take a look at what issues, that's your list. What potential solutions did you identify as you look at, are these things solvable? Do you have any ideas that you could share? And how might you know if they have an effect? How could they be measured? And that's what you're going to post for this week in the discussion forum. So that is 29 minutes of me talking, which will be one of the lengthier screencasts that you'll experience from me. Again, I look forward to having you in the class. I look forward to getting to know each one of you. And please know that we're going to have a very fast-paced 7 weeks, but it will be worth it. So I'm going to sign off. I look forward to getting to know you as you start to update your Moodle profiles, and I will be back with you later in the week. Have a great one.